This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to Aquariumania. I'm your host, DrRoy Anong, speaking to you from the University of Florida's Tropical Aquaculture Laboratory. Thanks for joining us. Florida's aquarium fish producers comprise much of the heart and soul of U.S. production. They are a colorful, hardworking, and dedicated group, and many come from families who have been farming for generations. My guest today is Mike Drawdy, owner of Imperial Tropicals in Lakeland, Florida. Mike, a third-generation fish farmer, raises a variety of colorful species including fancy swordtails, guppies, tetras, catfishes, and cichlids, and is always searching for the next big fish. Join us as Mike discusses his path to the aquarium industry, life on the farm, and some of his favorite fish. We'll be right back after these messages.
Put on a perfectly possum pet party. Having an awesome birthday or adoption day celebration for your four-legged friend? Or just want a fun excuse to throw a fun party with your friends from the dog park? Deck out your party with Molly and Bandit Pet Party accessories. Party products designed specifically for pets. There are wearables, including adjustable pet party hats, bow ties, and tutus. The photo prop kits include funny glasses and hats. The party supplies and decorations include coordinating table covers, party banners, cake decorations, and treat bowls, cups, and bags. Everything you need to create great memories and Instagram-worthy photos. They're available in two colorful themes, Tropical and Fireman. It's a dog's life. Celebrate it with Molly and Bandit Pet Party at mollyandbanditpetparty.com/petlife.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Aquariumania on Pet Life Radio. My guest today is aquarium fish farmer Mike Drawdy, owner of Imperial Tropicals in Lakeland, Florida. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Roy.
So, Mike, I know you've been in the business for a while, as is your family. We'll talk, a little bit more about that, but I like to ask some really early type questions. So, do you remember what your earliest aquarium fish memory is?
My first memories, I grew up on the fish farm, so I was born actually into this business, and my earliest memories would be probably going around the farm as a kid with the BB gun at probably, I would say, 5 years old. And my job was to try to take care of anything that would eat fish. So the bullfrogs and snakes and stuff like that was my objective.
so that got kind of you ready for the Marine Corps later, but we'll talk about that. So what was your very first tank? Do you remember your very first aquarium fish tank?
We didn't really have a lot of tanks back then. We had mainly like burial vaults, big volume, but my parents did let me keep my plecos. I was always fascinated by the plecos, and so I had a burial vault that was 180 gallons that I was able to keep, some royal plecos and some different, precautionous in there, and so that was probably the first, tank that I maintained.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I don't know if a lot of the folks, a lot of the hobbyists are actually familiar with that. Can you explain when you say burial vault, what is that?
Most of the farming in Florida is done. The holding tanks are actually burial vaults that they bury people in. So these are concrete vats that are roughly 180 gallons, and we're able to put them in these greenhouses and put them side by side, and it's a really efficient way to hold fish and to keep the fish. So instead of dead people, we're raising fish in them.
And so you take the dead people out of them before you put the fish in?
Most of the time.
Okay, that's good. So how old were you when you started working with your mom and dad officially? You said 5 with that, but how about like when you were actually working with the fish?
Well, believe it or not, they didn't really, at that young of age. My mom says I helped pull traps and put fish on air and stuff, but I don't really remember at a really early age actually working with the fish. They mostly I stayed out of my parents' way because they were so busy sorting and grading and moving stuff. I just didn't want to get in trouble by getting in their way. I had jobs and duties around the farm. Feeding the fish. I remember that as a young child. I used to pull a trailer around the ponds, and I would sit on the back of it on a bucket and throw the food out. Same thing with fertilizers and stuff like that when we would fertilize some of the ponds. And then a duty that I remember would be going around and collecting frog eggs around the ponds. I got, I think, like 25 cents for every frog egg I collected, and that lasted about a summer, and then my dad figured I should do it for free after that. So those were my duties. I would say there's probably 14 or 15 when I really started working with the fish. And, I didn't really have an interest, doing the fish stuff at that age. I liked the fish. I liked the plecos, but it was such hard work that, I was like, there's got to be better alternatives than this at the time. And, it took me getting out in the real world before I realized that, wow, this fish business stuff is pretty cool stuff,
So, speaking a little bit about that, then you did leave for a little while, and what made you decide to join the Marine Corps, and where did you serve? Definitely want to thank you for your service, too, of course.
Yeah, it was my honor to be able to serve, and, I got out of high school. I didn't really pay too much attention in high school to what the teachers were saying, so I kind of skated through high school, and after high school, I went to work with a lawn service that I did that for a year, and it didn't take me long after doing the lawn service to realize, man, these people are slave drivers. I gotta do something. And I wanted to travel and see the world a little bit, and I said, the military is a great opportunity to do that. And as far as the Marine Corps goes, I wouldn't, really care to serve in any other branch. The brotherhood of the Marine Corps is, to this day, I meet, fellow Marines, and everybody says Semper Fi, which means always faithful, so the bond there is very strong with anybody that's been in the Marine Corps, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the 4 years. I didn't appreciate it like most things until I got out, but it's really helped mold who I am today.
Well, definitely, again, appreciate your service. Let's talk a little bit more about your facility now, your farm, so they have a better idea of your operation. Can you kind of describe, roughly how many acres, ponds, buildings, tanks you have, kind of the setup you have for the facility?
We have 2 locations. The main location it's 20 acres of land, and there's 160 ponds. And these ponds are kind of like swimming pool-sized ponds, you could say, probably a little bit bigger than most swimming pools. They average about 30,000 gallons. Each pond, has its own self-contained environment with oxygen and water that goes into it. And so you look at an aerial view of the farm, and it's nothing but ponds. And then we have 6 greenhouses at the main facility, and these greenhouses hold those burial vaults that we were talking about earlier. And a lot of the production is done, indoors in the burial vaults, and then the babies are taken out to the pond for grow outs. And then we also have a number of fish that breed in the ponds, like the live bears, and they actually just breed in the ponds, and then we harvest them straight out of the pond. So it's a pretty wide, spread out operation. It's we have about 600 of those burial vaults. One thing that's unique about what we do here, I should say, is that we keep and breed about 200 different varieties of fish. So our goal is to do more variety on breeding. So we breed anything from tetras, barbs, plecos, angelfish, live bears, African cichlids, Central American cichlids, South American cichlids. So we try to breed shrimp. I breed some shrimp too. We like breeding all different types of animals, and we're constantly working on new varieties to breed and introduce to the hobby.
Well, it sounds like a pretty cool operation, and I know since I've been there too. So definitely appreciate all the species you guys are working with. What would you say are your top 5 sellers?
Right now, the guppies would be our top seller. We have some really nice strains that we've been acquiring from local domesticated breeders from the U.S. And we've got some really excited lines that we're we're working with that we're really excited about. So the guppies would be our number one seller, and then right behind it would probably be swordtails. We do a lot of different swordtails, and same thing. We've brought in new lines, and some of these have been crossed with wild stock. So swordtails would be probably number two. Plecos, that would be up there in the top five. We breed about a dozen different types of plecos, several different types of bushy nose and hypossmus. We've got some new plecos that are from South America that we're working on, that we're excited about potentially breeding, and so a lot of that stuff we're excited about.
So you mentioned guppies. Can you maybe describe a couple of the real favorite strains that you and your customers like?
Yeah, probably I would say it has to be the best strain that I've ever bred is a blue mosaic guppy, and I've got these from a breeder up in New York named Pete Nang is his name, and he has some of the best stock around, I think. I bought these fish from him about a year ago, and they have such beautiful tails. Even the females look better than most males do. So that's probably our most popular. And then we've got another one that the name of it is called a supercross guppy, and it's crossed with a Endler, and it's got really, really nice patterns on it. So that would be one, and then another one would be like a red tuxedo. It's just got really nice color to it. And we've got black Moscows that we breed. Those would be some of the more popular ones. And then I've got a gold delta and a red delta. Both of those are really nice. And then we're constantly working on new varieties.
So with the guppies, you breed those in the ponds then?
We do both indoor and outdoor. We used to just pond breed them, but the problem is the environment can be so iffy at times with the cold, with the heat, with too much rain, with not enough rain. So what we try to do is we try to maintain a strain at all times indoors, and then we take them outdoors to grow them up, and they also do breed in the pond. So a little bit different than what we used to do, where we just let them go in the ponds. But we had a few bad winters a couple years ago, and we've had a few years of bad heat. So we found that maintaining the strain indoors is a sure way to always keep it up.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So with the fish that you mentioned, which of these would you say would be good for a community tank, and do they have any special requirements? Any of the varieties you mentioned, guppies or otherwise?
Yeah, all the guppies are great community fish. All the plecos that we're breeding are great community fish. Some of them, the hypossmus family, those get a little bit big. Those aren't recommended for small tanks. I would say like a 55 or bigger would be better for a hypossmus. But then a lot of the bushy nose plecos that we have that we're breeding, they only get maybe 5 to 6 inches max, and they're really good tank cleaners. So that would be that. I think the bristle nose and the bushy nose, those are probably the best fish to have in an aquarium, because they don't get to the extreme sizes that some of the other ones do. And they're good tank cleaners. And we've got long fin calicos that we're breeding. We got some blue eye, long fin bushy nose that we're breeding. I've got some wild bushy nose from Argentina that aren't described yet that we're working on breeding. I've got some Uruguay bushy nose that we are breeding, and we'll have available here probably this summer.
Hey, Mike, can you describe, some of the listeners may not know what a bushy nose looks like. Can you kind of describe what they look like?
Yeah, it's the name of it, is a fitting description. Its max size is like 4 to 5 inches, but on the face of the pleco is a big bush. It looks like a mustache or a beard or something, and it's got bristles going everywhere, and that's how the males and the females. The females don't typically have big bristles like the males do on most species, but they do have small little bristles. But in nature, that's this fish's way of finding food and interacting with the other plecos in the wild. So yeah, very. When people first see the breeders, they're like, wow, that thing looks like it's from another planet. So they look really cool looking. And I think they're a fish that's going to continue to be a popular item for a long time in the hobby.
In terms of the bristle or the bushy nose, those are kind of interesting in terms of breeding as well. How do you breed those, and how are they different from some of the other fish you breed?
Yeah, they require a cave to breed in. So what we've done is we've made these little boxes that are made out of tile or slate is another popular material that they're made out of, and what we do is we put these caves in the burial vats, and the males will take over a cave, and the female, when she's ready, will come over to his little house, we should call it, and he will entice her to go in it, and then he'll trap her, what they call trapping, and then she'll lay the eggs, and the female will fertilize the eggs. And then what's unique is the female will leave the cave at that time, and then the male will sit there and take care of the eggs until they're ready to hatch. And that's really a cool thing. I was able to get some video of a male that was sitting on about maybe 150 babies the other day that turned out really nice. And they're very good parents. They take good care of their young, and then really a cool experience to see them breeding in those little caves. So that's a lot different, and there's so many different varieties of the bristlenose. I mean, literally there's probably at least, hundreds of different types of bristlenose. A lot of them aren't even described yet that are still coming in from the wild, and all different color patterns from the wild. There's a L183, which is the starlight plico, and it's solid black with white polka dots, and it's got a white fin. It's just a really spectacular looking plico, especially when it's young. And the domesticated lines, they have a super red now that started over in Europe that's starting to take off here in the U.S., and it's a really nice one. They've got long fin varieties. There's a green dragon out there that they call. That's a green one with yellow fins. Beautiful, beautiful plico. So there's a lot of diversity in it. It reminds me of like the guppies and the other domesticated lines that, there's all different types of colors of them now that are really, really kind of cool looking.
Well, they are definitely a beautiful fish. I know based on the ones you showed me at your facility, and they are, as you mentioned, probably ideal because they don't get as big as the others. I definitely have a lot more questions for you, but let's take a short break, and we'll continue our discussion with Mike Drawdy of Imperial Tropicals after these messages from our sponsors.
What if you could protect the life of your cat with something so simple and affordable that you already use every day? Get ready for the evolution of kitty litter. It's Pretty Litter. Along with all the features you've come to expect from your kitty litter, Pretty Litter's patented and scientific formula will also monitor your cat's health and detect illnesses early while providing industry-leading odor control. 2 kitty litters, same cat, same price. But there's one important difference. Pretty Litter reacts to your cat's waste by detecting health issues simply by changing color. And the key is that Pretty Litter detects these issues before your cat shows symptoms of physical illness or pain, likely saving you major dollars in vet bills while protecting the health of your cat. What do you think, little guy? Ready to switch litter? Pretty Litter. Colorful insight into your cat's health.
Go to prettylittercats.com/cat101 or use coupon code CAT101 to get 20% off your first subscription order.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
We're back and continuing our conversation with Mike Drawdy of Imperial Tropicals in Florida. So, Mike, you mentioned a little bit of information. You gave us a lot of information on the guppies and some of the bristlenose or bushy nose that you raise. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cichlids. I know you do a lot of cichlids as well. What are your kind of favorite of the cichlids that you do produce? And can you tell us a little bit about them?
That's a hard one to pick from. I have several that I really, really like. I would say probably the Turquoise are some of my favorite. They're probably one of the harder ones to produce, numbers on, but I think they're just a really beautiful fish. And I've got some cherry spot breeders that are F1s, which the F1 stands for one generation out of the wild. That means the parents were wild stock. So a lot of people try to get their brood stock to be either wild, preferably, or F1s or F2s, would be desirable. So what I've been doing is we used to breed a lot of different, I would say the more common Africans, like the Venusians, the zebras, the chipokes, the sophalophies, which are all nice fish, but they're all what I call like line items for the chain stores now. And so what happens is that the price gets to the point where they're very cheap and not really affordable to produce. So what we've been doing for the last couple of years is trying to go out and get new lines of Africans that are not being produced for the wholesale market, or if they are being produced, we're trying to produce them and do a better job than what they've been done before. I have an advantage with the farm that I have is that I could breed these African cichlids indoors, and then I could put them outdoors in a pond. And when they go into a pond, they just grow like crazy. So they've got 30,000 gallons of space. They've got plenty of live food that I'm able to throw in there for the fish, and they really benefit from the sunlight and the environment. Florida is actually a great place for the African cichlids to breed, because our water is very similar to the water that's in the lakes in Africa where they come from, as far as the hardness and the pH. So Florida is a good environment. It does get a little bit cold in the wintertime, so we do have to cover them with plastic to help them survive the winter. But yeah, they do really good. And Florida, I think, produces some of the best Africans in the world, as far as the collar and the markings. And one thing I'll try to do with all the ones that I breed is I want to know, where they came from in Africa. I think that's something that people are tuned into more, is that, they want to know not only what lake they came from, but what point in the lake, and so a lot of the new varieties I'm trying to get, I want to know location point on where they came from. And what this ensures is that, this fish has not been crossed or with another African in the hobby, so your lines are more pure. So, that's an important thing for most African keepers. They really don't like the hybrids, unless it's a peacock cichlid, then it's okay, they say. But yeah, so we like the African cichlids. They're, I think African cichlids are one of the most popular fish in the hobby these days. It used to be a starter fish for a beginning aquariumist would be guppies or swordtails, and what we've noticed, because we breed a little bit of all of them, is that it seems like the last 5 years or so that more people are coming into the hobby and starting off with Africans than any other fish. And I think the reason for that would be a few things, but one thing is that the Africans are very hardy fish. They don't die easy. So, you don't have to have like the perfect environment. I mean, it's good to have a good environment, but they're a lot more forgiving for a beginning aquariumist than other fish. So it's a great starter fish, and not only that, it's a very colorful fish. So every time somebody comes up to our farm, they say, "Man, that looks like saltwater fish," and they do. They resemble the colors on the Africans. They resemble, the colors of Nemo. They got very bright colors on them, and that's what people like. They like the colors and the brightness, and so I think I would say African cichlids are the beginner fish for people these days.
So for keeping a tank, I know they can be aggressive, right? Would you recommend getting a lot of them then for a tank, or?
No, I don't recommend getting a lot of fish for any tank, because you seem to have more problems. I mean, on one hand, when Africans are slightly crowded, they seem to be less territorial, but at the same time, you don't want to ever overcrowd your tank, so you're better to, do a comfortable ratio, which would be like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, like one fish per, I would say, 5 gallons, would be a good start. So like in a 55-gallon tank, 10 cichlids would be a good start. But, that also depends on which species, because some of them stay small, some of them get big, so, give or take depending on which species, but, and they are very, aggressive, so you don't want to throw, I've had people said they had a community tank and they put an African cichlid in there, and next thing you know, all the community fish are gone, so they will eat other fish. They are, very much so carnivores, and, I would say, you need to go with a tank with Africans, and there's other fish that you could put with them, like a lot of fish that come from Africa that aren't cichlids, like I would say the catfish, the Cenodontus. Those are in Lake Malawi and the other lakes. They're the bottom feeders in those lakes. So, and they're really cool catfish. They don't get very big, and they do a very good job cleaning, and, that would be a good fish to have in with the African cichlids.
Okay. Well, I want to get back to a plico now. You showed me both at one of the global pet expos as well as at your farm the luteus, which was a spectacular fish. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you got it, what your plans are, and also maybe if you can describe it for our listeners as well, because I know there are a couple different sort of phases or colors.
Yeah, this is a very special fish to us. I call it the bling bling plico because it's solid gold and its final phase. It comes in 3 phases. What they call a phase 1, which is a black body with gold spots and gold fins, and it reminds me of like a big gold nugget, I guess you could say. And then a phase 2 is one that is losing its black markings, and it's turning gold. So, phase 2 is, you could say half and half gold and half black with gold spots. And then, the final phase is the phase 3, and that's when the fish is like 90% gold or more. And this is a hypostomus, I call them luteus, but it's pronounced luteus, but they come from Argentina, and over the years, Argentina has not really been a place that a lot of fish have came out of into the United States. Germany and Japan, they bring in fish from there quite often, but in the States, that for some reason that this wasn't a spot that people were bringing in fish from the wild from. And Ingo Sedell from Germany, good friends with Ingo, and I've learned a lot about the plicos from Ingo, but he told me about this fish, it's probably been about 6 years ago at a cichlid convention, I believe it was a catfish convention in Maryland, and he showed me on his computer how, pictures of it, and he's like, you need to get this fish, in production, and, he explained to me not just that one, but there's probably a dozen other ones from that area that have never been bred in captivity at that time, and that he felt like with my facility that it would be a good fit for me here because it has very similar water parameters as what we have here in Florida. So it took me a little while to locate them and to bring them into the U.S., but we brought in the first shipment last year. And the response, was phenomenal. I mean, it's anybody that sees the fish, even if they don't know nothing about the fish, are just in amazement, at the collar markings of the fish. So this is the first time the fish have been brought into the U.S., as far as we know ever in volume. There's been a few pieces that trickled in from Canada over the years, because the Canadians have been bringing them in for a few years now. But so we're excited about that fish. There's also the margarita fruit from down there. That's a black plico with white spots all over it, white polka dots, and it's another hypostomus. And so yeah, the fish has been a hit for us. I've been selling a few of them, off and on for the last few months, and then I've also got 2 different breeding setups, groups of them on the farm. As far as today, they haven't successfully spawned yet, but we feel like we're pretty close to spawning them, and they're very similar to some of the other plicos that we already breed. I have a Uruguay plico that we bred a couple of years ago. I only had 7 of them originally that I received from Spencer Jack in Canada. And that fish is from Uruguay, which is just north of Argentina where these are collected. Actually, it would probably be just east of where the Ruteus come from on the world map. And that fish breeds, quite regularly for me now. And we finally have our F1s up to size. So that Uruguay plico, which we call a redfin plico, is almost like a cousin to the luteus, So we feel like between that and the rhinos and the other bigger plicos that we've bred, that we feel like we're going to be able to breed it, and we're excited about the potential of that fish.
Yeah, me too. Those are spectacular, all the fish that you just described. Now, I know folks can maybe see some of these online. I know you're a big fan of Facebook and YouTube. I guess maybe tell us about those sites and how important is the internet, in your opinion, to your business, to the hobby, and to the aquarium industry in general?
Okay, well, I'm a big fan. My other hobby is photography, so over the years, I've taken thousands of pictures of fish, and now that I look back at those old pictures, I'm like, man, I didn't know nothing about photography. I was shooting on automatic settings, and, now I'm on manual settings, and I've got a lighting studio, a studio with lights, and I spend, literally hours in there photographing. So my goal with the social media is the last few months, I would say I started probably about 3 months ago with the Facebook kind of, putting photographs of my fish on Facebook, and we've got a Imperial Tropicals Facebook page that I put the pictures on, and the responses have been just, we're kind of overwhelmed by it. I mean, because I'm getting so many hobbyists contacting me, asking me, hey, where can I buy your fish from, or do you sell to the public? And so we're excited about that because, before when I would breed a new fish, that's never been bred before, all I had was the name, and then I would send samples out to customers and say, look, this is a new fish that's never been bred before, here it is, Now I could catalog the fish and do a proper, description of it. So whenever I have a new fish that's that I've bred, I'm able to take pictures of it in several different stages, from small to breeding form, and it makes a world of difference. When I put those pictures on the web, people really react, to the photographs. And the same thing with the YouTube. I was doing some very amateur video of my fish, and I couldn't get good video. I was like, man, I've got these burial vats that these nice fish are in, and I would have to literally take the fish out of the vat, hold them on my hand or in a bag, and the footage is very, very rough, So I ended up buying the underwater camera, and now it's like, man, it just opens up, all the beautiful life that are in these vats, of my fish, and those have been really popular. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from people on my YouTube channel with it, and I'm excited about literally the farm is like I could do endless footage of different things on the farm that I think people will find interesting. So we're excited about the social media aspect of the hobby. My family has been doing this since 1970. So for the longest, before the internet was even alive, we've been in this business, and now we're trying to utilize that technology to help grow not only our business but the hobby. We feel like the most important job that we have is to educate and to teach people how to take care of fish. One thing that I've always heard from people was that, wow, your job must be really hard, because I've tried to keep fish before and we couldn't keep them alive. And what you find out is that these people, really wanted to get into the fish hobby, but they went to maybe a box store that really, maybe the salesperson didn't give them good advice on how to start the tank, and maybe they threw some guppies in there with their Africans and didn't like the results and gave up on the hobby. But so what we want is what we call like the MTS syndrome, and that's the multiple tank syndrome. There's been many people that I've gotten that has never had an aquarium before, so I tell them where to go to get the tanks, where to get the setup, because that's not something that we deal with. And then they come back, and a lot of the local people, I'll just donate fish for the first time. I'm like, here, take some of these swordtails and and start. And what I find is that the people, if they have success with their first tank, that they will end up having tanks all over the house. And that's what we like. We like to have people that have multiple tank addictions, and they really enjoy their fish, and they enjoy learning about the fish, you know. So we think, you know, in a combination with all that, with the internet, we're able to reach people that we weren't able to reach before. And, you know, we think the internet is the future of the fish business. I really do. I think, you know, I think you can't even put in, you know, volume what the internet's going to be in the future, because we already see what it's done just in the last, you know, decade. I mean, every year it seems like it takes leaps and bounds. So we think, you know, we think the internet is going to be, and is a powerful tool for the fish business.
Well, definitely appreciate your time, Mike. Unfortunately, I think we are out of time. I have a million more questions for you, and luckily I know our listeners do have the opportunity, and we'll have your YouTube and Facebook pages and your business websites on your guest page, so they'll be able to access that and kind of keep up with all the work you're doing and all your beautiful fish. Well, I want to thank very much you, Mike, and our producer, Mark Winter, for making the show possible. Mike, do you have any final words of wisdom or information for our listeners?
Well, I guess the final thing would be that, in my humble opinion, I think fish keepers are a higher level of being than non-fish keepers. If you're able to keep fish alive and maintain a healthy environment, then, you know, I think you're a little bit better off than people that don't know how. So I think it's a great educational. There's probably not a hobby in the world that you could learn so much from, you know. So as far as the science aspect of it, I think it's a wonderful thing for people to keep fish and learn all the different aspects. So you know, just I encourage people to start a fish tank if they don't already have one.
Excellent advice, and yeah, I agree with you absolutely. There definitely a lot more that you have to know to keep fish successfully than, you know, maybe some other animals. Yeah, well, thanks again for joining us, Mike. Please be sure to check out Mike's webpage links on his guest page on Aquariumania for more information on Imperial Tropicals and Mike's favorite fish. I encourage all of you to visit my Aquariumania blog on Pet Life Radio. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas for a show, email me at DrRoy@PetLifeRadio.com. That's DrRoy@PetLifeRadio.com. If you're ever in Florida, please be sure to visit the Aquariumania exhibit at the Florida Aquarium in Tampa, one of my favorite aquariums. And be sure to check out my new book, not so new book anymore, but our book, An Animal Life, a novel written by me and 3 close friends, inspired by our time in veterinary school. Go to ananimallife.com. Until next time, please visit your local aquarium stores, keep your tanks clean and your fish healthy, and be sure to visit Mike Drawdy's Facebook and YouTube sites.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.